Paris Saint-Germain 2, Tottenham 2, but it is PSG via penalty shootouts who win the European Super Cup. And Spurs were 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go. 2-0 lead, 5 minutes remaining on the clock. They couldn't see it out. That doesn't tell the full story. There's a lot for Tottenham to feel positive about. There's a lot for Tottenham and a lot of positive for Spurs to take from this. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. But you know what's going to be ringing around the world of football tonight? Spursism, and all of that jazz. But before we go any further, I just want to call out a few of our viewers because nearly all of them have retracted their comments. This is on you guys tonight. When you start leaving comments like this, calling out Arteta, asking why I haven't said they're scary, Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we missed the old Spurs." A lot of you have retracted these comments. But you are the reason Spurs did this tonight. You got to it. You didn't wait for full time. You guys, listen, Petit, Rux, you guys, you didn't wait for full time. You should have waited for full time before you came on and gave it Billy Big Balls. It's the second game of the new season. And I keep telling people the football gods are real. Humble yourself. Humble yourself. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Yes, everybody, make sure you hit the like button. Luke Skywalker also says, what do we think of Tottenham? I'll let you guys finish that Arsenal chant in the comment section. That isn't for me to do. But look, it was an interesting game tonight. It was an interesting game because I felt that, and I will say this about Tottenham, as much as they didn't win, Spurs have got a lot to feel proud of tonight. Spurs have got a lot that they can take from this game. Results are, of course, a massive and important part of football. Winning another European trophy would have been an excellent element for Spurs' legacy. 2 trophies in the space of 12 weeks after going 11 years without one. It would have felt amazing for Tottenham fans. So they will feel disappointed tonight. They will feel frustrated tonight. They will feel upset tonight, Spurs fans. And I get it, especially being 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go. They nullified PSG for the majority of the game. But I think when the dust settles, I think when Tottenham fans sort of reassess this, I think what you're going to see is Spurs fans actually understand how they're going to play this year. Tottenham are not going to play very many teams this season in the Premier League, that are as good as PSG. You've probably got, you've got the top 4 that are in and around that standard, okay? But they're only going to play 4, 5, 6 games this season against sides of that level. This notion that Tottenham were the 17th worst team in the league last year, squad in the league. They were the 17th worst team, but they weren't the 17th worst squad. This was a nonsense. This was a fallacy. This was an exaggeration. It's the way they were being made to play football. You can see the clear plan from Thomas Frank. 3 at the back, 5 at the back when they're defending, 3-man midfield. And when you look at that Paulinho in there, you understand why they went and they bought him as an example. The front 2 tonight, I thought were brilliant. I thought they were absolutely brilliant in Mohamed Kudus and Richarlison. They pressed brilliantly. They were pinning PSG back. They learned that from what Chelsea did around about 4 weeks ago in the Club World Cup final. They did leave themselves a little vulnerable when they did that, but they had the pace and the legs to be able to, and the athleticism to cover it. They scored goals from set pieces that PSG weren't able to handle. I did think it could have been a long night for Chevalier, because he was awful for that second goal. Awful. And it just, at the time I stood by it, I still think there is a possibility over the next couple of seasons that Donnarumma being removed. That's why you need a world-class shot stopper more than anything else. PSG could play their football from the back tonight. They would have been able to play the way they did tonight at the back with Donnarumma. Maybe a few more clearances rather than passes when Tottenham pressed them. But he wouldn't have been conceding that goal, in my opinion, not the form that man has found himself in. But where were the mistakes from Spurs tonight? I want to be fair. I want to be fair in this. I don't want to be over the top. I don't want to hyperbole to slip into this. But I did feel that, look, they did bring Solanke on in the 72nd minute. I know Mateus Tel came on for Mohamed Kudus. It wasn't overly defensive, but I felt that Spurs became too defensive in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. They were a threat. You know, up until the sort of 70th minute or so of the game, they were a threat in the football match. In fact, it was 13 shots to PSG 6. And I think within that, it was 5 shots on target to PSG 0. You go from the 70th minute of the game onwards, and yes, PSG made their own changes, but it was 7 shots to PSG, 2 of which were on target. They scored goals from. Spurs didn't register a goal. And I think that's something where Thomas Frank has got to learn about the higher level of the game in European football. I think tonight was his first ever European game. And you might get away with that in the Premier League if you're at home, the fans are behind you. You can't go that negative. I felt Spurs, there's been enough time passed now to not sound negative, but Spurs did very similar in the Europa League final. And had Luke Shaw's header been a little bit better, had there been a tad more power on Rasmus Højlund's header, they may have lost that game. They may have conceded in the same way. And I think this is something for Thomas Frank to reflect on, and has got to work out how he instills a better mentality into these players. But I do still think there is a lot of positives that they can take from this game. I stand on that. I believe that. And I know they're going to be gutted. They have every right to feel gutted. I'm not telling Spurs fans how to feel, but I don't think overall it was a bad night for them performance-wise, which is key. PSG, look, they've only been back a week, and they did look rusty to begin with, but they have so much quality in that team. And when Fabian Ruiz came on, they had more of their shape. I didn't think that Doué in the middle had a particularly great night tonight. I actually thought the likes of Vitinha were well off the pace. Dembele starting through the center isn't it for me. Much better player when he's out on the right, but drifts in to those central areas. And when they readjusted their shape, there was an improvement from them. But that was also coupled with, I think, Spurs becoming a little more negative. Tell's a decent player, but Mohamed Kudus tonight demonstrating exactly what I thought we would all see. Such a brilliant player, good on the ball, great carrier, amazing strength, amazing athleticism. Is going to pay dividends for Tottenham. There's no doubt about it. But of course, look, PSG, barring that they won everything. If they'd have won the Club World Cup, it would have just been an absolutely, the amount of trophies they won were crazy. We know they're the best team in the world. An amazing acid test for Tottenham. But I will end that before going to your comments by saying Spurs are going to be, if what we've seen tonight continues, and again, they become more regimented, they learn the system even more, first competitive game with it, Spurs will be one of the hardest teams to beat this season. I've been called out already for saying that. Like, how can you gas it up so quickly? I'm saying one of the hardest teams to beat. I didn't say impossible to beat. I didn't say winning the league. I just think they're going to be a very, very hard team to beat this year. They'll be like Brentford were a hard team to beat, especially when you went to, the Britannia. When you went to what's their stadium called? It's not called the Britannia. Oh, I've got to know what their stadium's called now. The VTEC, Vitality, whatever it's called. It doesn't even matter, really. And I mean that with respect. They were a very hard team to beat there. Spurs have got much better players overall and will buy better players and spend more. The GTEC, that's the one. So, I don't know, Vitality Stadium. Who's the Vitality? Someone's got the Vitality Stadium. Anyway, irrelevant what we're saying. I stand by what I said. They're going to be a very difficult team to beat this year. A long way to go. But you did see, and I don't want this to sound disrespectful, but you sort of saw it's Bournemouth that have the Vitality Stadium. When you say man said Vitality, there is a stadium called the Vitality Stadium. Do you know what I mean? What are you laughing at, Don? There is one called that. I just couldn't remember. They play in red and black stripes, not red and white stripes. I knew it was something like that. But anyway, as I say, the mentality element's got to change at Spurs, though. And that last 20 minutes was because that's what a club like Tottenham does. And again, they got away with it in the Europa League final. And I did. I actually watched that game back about 3 weeks ago. I watched the extended highlights back. And I still can't believe, when you watch it back, I can't believe we didn't score, which was crazy. But Spurs weren't playing one of the worst Man United teams in 40 years tonight. They were playing the best current team in the world. And again, the difference between the two sides is when Spurs played, when Chelsea played, and Chelsea are just better than Tottenham. And that's why they were able to see it out. They didn't collapse. They got another late goal. And I think if Spurs would have maintained a bit more of an attacking threat in the last 20 minutes, I think they would have caught them on the break and they could have killed the game off. And that's the one bit they should add into it. But look, let's go to your comments, people. Let's make sure you're hitting the like button as well, by the way, if you haven't done so already. We have some super chats here. Spurs scored 2 set-piece goals. So the goals don't count. This is the interesting thing when it comes to football, doesn't it? It's like I saw in like people were saying, "Oh my God, Thomas Frank's going to have as many trophies as Arteta straight away." And I saw a Liverpool fan write that, and this same Liverpool fan's been on my shows who said that Arteta's FA Cup don't count because it isn't his whole team. He inherited the majority of it, and I'm like, that's my issue with football banter. It's just so boring now because that's all anybody does. But yeah, I hear you. The only team who has beaten PSG is Chelsea. Respect. In 2025 in knockout competitions, yeah, you're right. In terms of the tie, correct. Can't think of anybody else that's done it. Well, no, another team beat them in the Club World Cup, but that was more the group stage, wasn't it? But yeah, in knockout football, absolutely. I agree, DR. People are just fickle, man. I'm just going to say, like, people, you're allowed to banter if you want, people. I'm just bored of it now. I'm bored of injuries on an excuse, says Joe Bloggs, who's a City fan. And then they get a bad injury. Oh, we might not win now because of injuries. It's like, oh my God, it's so boring, man. It's boring. Twitter cliche is still full. Twitter's cliche is still full of deleted. What phase is Thomas Frank in tweets? Strong defensive shape, set pieces, long live North London. Yeah, you know for a fact there were loads of people tonight, and not just listen. That's Lee Gunner's thing. Lee does it for a bit of fun and fair play to him. But there would have been a lot of people sitting there with that. There'd been a lot of Arsenal fans ready to attack their own club with it, which are just strange behavior. We don't have the depth that got that. Sorry, we don't have the depth they got that. That's the difference. No, I agree. You've got to improve the squad over time, but you could have still been. It's about the instructions that the players have, and I bet. Oh, I don't know what Thomas Frank will say publicly. I wouldn't be surprised if he said they became too negative, and I bet in that dressing room he's saying, guys, we had to remain a threat. You had to keep landing some jabs. You had to keep landing some hits. Otherwise, you just encourage the other team. The substitutions, though, weren't normally when the manager wants you to stop attacking, you take off attackers for defenders. You took off attackers for attackers. So I don't think the message was sit back and just defend. Otherwise, you would have brought defenders on. You're not going to bring Solanke on to be a defender. I'm an Arsenal fan and I'm happy. I cannot take more trophy banter before next season starts. Look, I didn't want Spurs to win it, and that's nothing to do with disliking Spurs. It's I don't want another team. I don't want another team winning another trophy. PSG winning trophies doesn't impact my life day to day. It really, really doesn't. I probably won't be alive by the time PSG have as yes, they win a lot of league titles because they're the only team in their league. No one in Europe cares about their league titles. We care about what they're doing in Europe. In another 10 years, I might be bothered about them winning more. But right now, I'd much rather them do it than Spurs. Like Spurs adding another European trophy. No English team should want that, with all due respect to Tottenham. To all the kids who threw around the word bottle at any occasion, this game is the definition of a bottle, is what Leo says here. Semi says, "Tell ain't it." Yeah, he didn't look good when he come on. That penalty. Listen, both him and Vitinha, by the way, don't do the Bruno Fernandes penalty. Don't do the. I'm going to wait for the goalkeeper to move. And I'm going to put it in the other direction. I don't think Bruno's penalties don't look easy. Sorry, don't look hard. When the goalie dives the right way, he adds that power to it. As soon as he sees the goalkeeper go the other way, he's able to change the angle of his foot and put it in the other direction. It's so hard to do. Just don't try it. Vitinha's penalty and Tell's penalty were awful. Don't try and be Bruno Fernandes. You're not Bruno Fernandes at penalties, just in case Staffy gets upset with me saying that. Sorry, Tell, Spurs will struggle this year. No, I don't think so. I think they'll be a very hard team to beat. And again, maybe you're right. Define struggle. You think I need to know what you mean by struggle, but I think they'll be a very hard team to beat, and they're not going to be up against sides as good as PSG every week. So I wouldn't use PSG as the acid test for the Prem. Took till the 85th minute to realize they were. Took them to 85th minutes to realize they were Spurs. If Tell is worth 50 million, so is Garnacho. Waste of money. Beating PSG ain't for everyone. Hit that like button is what Z says here. Big up yourself, Z. And thank you very, very much, my bro, for that super chat. It means a great deal to us here this evening. Live on the Football Terrace. I disagree about being... Oh, Cal, listen, by the way, I haven't seen many of our Spurs viewers and supporters that subscribe to the Terrace most of the summer. That's mainly because there's not been a lot of Spurs news that we've gone live for, and I don't mean that rudely. I think we went live for the Kudus deal, and we went live for the Here We Go for the Gibbs White, and then there's not been anything when we've been able to go live. But yeah, disagree about being proud of that purely because of the way we chucked that away. Owners giving the manager only 2 signings going into it, and fans calling for that out because they're still massive shit, and not calling it out because they're still massive shit bags. Yeah, I get that. Look, I get you could have got things done earlier. You're going to go for Savio. You're going to go. I think you're going to end up going for Eze as well. With the news today that Arsenal are really calling their interest in that, and you need it. But I did think that from a defensive standpoint, you look really strong. I think 3 at the back is going to suit you. Van der Ven's hamstrings are not going to get run into the ground this year, so he'll be out a lot less. And listen, I think you've got to start playing Jed Spence more. I thought he had a brilliant game tonight. The midfield 3 is going to be a powerhouse and hard to break down. But I think Spurs are doing the right thing about building a team and a squad to play to their means. Spurs are never going to have the facilities in England and the players to be able to play the best football. And I know that Spurs have got this long-standing history of we play really good football. If Spurs want to play really nice football with the budgets they have and the pulling power they have of players, you're always going to be a team that every now and then you might shoot up the league, but you're always going to sit between that sort of 4th and 8th place. Where I think if you become a bit more pragmatic, you play within your means, you look to get the very best out of what you've got, I think you can be a team that wins some trophies. I think you can be a team that gets into Europe on a regular basis over the course of time. Lots of Arsenal fans coming out of the Forest is what Joshua Jack has got to say here. Oh, look, their biggest rivals have just lost a final that they were. Listen, and it was Arsenal that were getting bantered. Just listen, I took the screenshots here of my chat. This was just before the end of the game. People were asking me why I'm not referencing Spurs being scary, calling out Arsenal and Arteta. So listen, it's all's fair. All's fair. I did take a screenshot of it. And the reason I took a screenshot is not because banter's wrong, but I sat there looking at it and I was like, you man are tempting these football gods. 5 minutes later, it's 2-2. I did laugh. Not at Tottenham. I laughed at the viewers. I was like, what are you guys doing? I keep warning you about the football gods. And I know people don't like hearing this, but it's the truth. Search tempting fate or pride before the fall, but search it and then reference it to multiple different, and think of different cultures and backgrounds and religions. I'm not going to name them in case anyone gets offended. And there's a connection. The football gods aren't real, literally, but I believe in it. I believe in it. It's there. It's a thing. It exists. Stop doing it. Stop doing it for attention. You damage your team. What do we think of Tottenham is what Guna P has got to say here. Marcy here says, struggle as in they will meet teams that sit deep. These teams are also good at set pieces. Spurs don't have the creativity to break down a low block. I bet they score more from individual brilliance. Nothing wrong with scoring from individual brilliance. Teams need it. Teams need it. PSG, you look at the goals that PSG conceded when Chelsea beat them. Either the passing or the finish were moments of individual brilliance. Think about the Cole Palmer performance in that game and his involvement in the first 2 goals. That is individual brilliance. The first goal tonight, in fact, the second goal, both have elements of individual brilliance. Great shot from Lee into the bottom corner. The cross from Ousmane Dembele, that was a moment of individual brilliance. You need it. That's why Spurs are looking at Eze's. That's why they've brought in Mohamed Kudus. It's why they're looking at Savinho. They want players that have that brilliance within them. And yeah, they will come up against some low blocks that will be hard to break down, but most teams in the Prem don't play that so well these days. Lots of people try and play it from the back and try and be attacking and try and be expansive. Brentford were one of those teams. Will they be the same this year? No. You actually go through the league. Who plays low block against? Who's going to play low block against Tottenham? I don't think teams will look at Tottenham and go, we're going to sit low block against you. I think Spurs might give some teams the ball this year themselves, but we'll see. You could be right, but we'll see. Haguna here says, shit, what do we think of shit Tottenham? That's what Guna P says here. Look, we are going to take some calls now. We're going to get some people on to have their say. We've got Lou, we've got Jess, we've got Judge Mo sitting backstage. Let me not find them. They're in front of me. They're right. I still keep saying this, though. This T-shirt and this seat make me look so fat. These are not love handles. It's the seat, right? I keep looking at it. I go, fuck me, I put weight on. I do look a little fat. I am still a bit fat. Like I'm trying to bulk up. But honestly, I busted my ankle 10 days ago. I've not been able to put shoes on. My foot swelled up. Because of the limping, an old knee injury's flared up. So I was sitting in here earlier watching the football. This is how old I've got, right? I'm sitting in here earlier with an ice pack around one knee and then an ankle ice pack around the other, just trying to get rid of the swelling so I can go back to the gym tomorrow. Honestly, getting old is no joke. You youngsters laugh at it, but I'll be laughing at you one day. Be laughing at you. Oh, Terry got arthritis. I'll be like, that's what you get. Do you remember that moment when Loki screams down at his brother when is it God of Thunder? Ragnarok, whatever it was called, one of those ones. God of fuck knows. I don't know the names of these things. You know what I'm referring to. Love that. That's how it feels. That's how that's what we're saying to you lot when you got arthritis and stuff. Be like, I told you. Same as the people that used to laugh at me being bald that are now going bald and begging me for a reference to a hair clinic. Right. Mo's here with me, Jesse's here with me, and Lou is here with me as well. Welcome back to the show. I didn't press another button. Where has it gone? There it is. Welcome one and all. Mo. Spurs were gonna do it.
And Spurs are good, bro. Like I know, like you know what the problem is with the fans now. Like, just gotta be honest, right? You're watching this game, and if you're like Arsenal, especially Arsenal Football Club, you're shitting your pants. You're like, what the fuck? Like there's another team in London that is gonna win another trophy. That's why, by the way, all the Arsenal fans are here bantering and sending Superchats to banter. What do you think of Tottenham? Tottenham lost in penalties. You didn't. Chelsea beat this team. Spurs almost beat this team, and they lost on penalties. Basically, to be honest, Spurs looked good, composed, planned. Thomas Frank looked like a proper coach. The team looked like a proper team, proper coached, well-drilled football team on the pitch. And they lost because PSG at the end had the better players, and this is why they are the best team in the world. But reality is this Spurs team is going to be a problem for top teams, as he said. They're not hard to beat. They're going to be hard to beat. They're not going to be easy to play against. And are they going to finish top 5? Probably not, because I still think they have like a little bit of holes in the team. Like the striker is a big problem. Richarlison is basically not a football player. Like he's just a rugby player or something. And Solanke doesn't have the trust of the manager. So they're going to be a problem, but what kind of problem? Maybe 4th, 6th, 5th, something like that. But they're a good team. And bro, Arsenal fans, you're bantering them. They won Europa League and they are in a Super Cup. They lost 2 penalties to PSG. You lost in 180 minutes. So why are people like bantering? I don't know. Like, are they like all the people that are bantering Spurs now in the chat and on Twitter and everything? You all said that Spurs will be like 5-0. I promise you all said that. All of you were on Twitter saying, we're going to watch Spurs be beaten 5-0. It's going to be a party. That's what people said. But because now, like, what do we think of Spurs? It's reality, bro.
So I agree. I don't know if Lou will agree with me as a United fan. I was happy Spurs didn't win it just because I was like, it feels like we've helped them win 2 trophies by not beating them in the final. But that being said, I'm happy another English team didn't win something. But I've got no banter for Spurs tonight because one, they were there because they won a trophy. So to even be there is because of success. And I saw a Tottenham team tonight that I stand by. I'm not saying they're going to be scintillating this year. I'm not saying they're going to be one of the best teams in the world. But this Spurs team's a problem. This Spurs team, if it continues to grow and develop in this style, is going to become one of the hardest teams in England to beat. And I would say this about Tottenham. I would say in the last 30 years of my life, rarely, in that 30 years, have you had a Spurs team that's been hard to beat. You've had a Spurs team that no matter how good their football was, still lost too many games. And I think they're going for the exact right approach for how they're building things. Kate, commiserations on losing the final tonight. Good to see you again. Long time no see. What did you make? First look of Tottenham in a competitive game under Thomas the Frank Engine.
Look, to be fair, everyone said we'd get absolutely battered. I said we'd lose 5-1. I thought it would be an embarrassment. And I thought we absolutely held our own. The first half, I thought we was excellent. The second half, I thought we started brilliant, got the goal, and then we made some changes and the whole game changed. I mean, Mo's spot on. All the people that are giving Spurs crap in the chat are probably the same ones that I've had all week. Arsenal fans telling me we're going to get absolutely battered. I thought it was a really encouraging performance to see an organised Spurs team. You know, it's been a while since we've seen that. I thought Thomas Frank maybe took off a couple of players too soon, but we don't know what sort of state they were in. I mean, Polinia, he put a good show in the first half, but we're not sure he's fully fit at the moment because obviously he didn't play a lot of football last year. Danso's throws, that's got to be a positive. Vicario looked much more settled. Look, all in all, I thought it was a positive performance. I don't feel particularly gutted because I didn't expect us to win. So to go against what I consider the best team in Europe and sort of get them to a penalty shootout and lose on penalties, which, let's be fair, anything can happen. I don't think it's a bad thing. And people can say it's bottling. I just think we took our foot off the pedal. We took off our better players and we came unstuck for it. So that's it.
Yeah, I hear that. This here saying singing champions of Europe, then Spursy in the last 5 minutes. I mean, but what fans are allowed, you know, you're singing, you're cheering your team on, you're trying to support them. I would say the only thing I would probably looked at, we saw a lot of this last year when people did things and it backfired a little bit. Maybe the play acting from Porro when the ball hit his shoulder. Like we've seen it a lot in the Champions League last year. I don't know if you guys remember. People would sort of delay time. More time then gets added on, and then you see a team concede in like the 95th minute, where maybe there would only have been 3 minutes added on if he wasn't laying on the floor when he wasn't hurt. But aside from that, like Spurs fans singing songs, they are a champion of Europe. Like this, as painful as it is for everybody, that is the truth. They are a champion of Europe. You can't deny them that. How are you feeling about the season in itself, Kate? Are you excited after seeing that? Are you enthused about how you might be playing next year?
Well, first of all, the only fans that can banter us really are Chelsea because they beat PSG. Arsenal did beat them, but they had half of the PSG team out. So, and they've got no European heritage anyway, so they can't even talk to us. But look, I'm positive about the new season. I think we're going to be difficult to beat. I think, look, we haven't got a number 10 at the minute. People are forgetting that. Everyone's saying Donnarumma was out. We've got no number 10. Maddison's injured. Kulu's injured. We need to get a number 10 in to get that creativity. I thought we'd done excellently, really. I couldn't see where the goals were coming from. And I thought we did well to even get 2 goals. So, look, we're never, ever going to finish anywhere near 17th. I've got us down to finish 7th. But if we can bring in a couple of decent signings, I think we can challenge for top 6. So, look, that's... You know, I don't think we're going to go. I think the top 4 writes itself. I think Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea are going to be top 4.
Even if you get Eze, though, even if you get Eze.
No, that's what I'm saying. If we get Eze and Sabino, say, then I think we can maybe challenge.
You can do what?
6, possibly.
Top 6. So you have Sabino, one of the team of the season in the league 2 years ago. You get Eze, one of the best playmakers in the league, won the FA Cup. You have Bentancur, Kulusevski still there, if I'm not mistaken. You got Kudus, who everyone wanted. All of you Spurs fans talk about Romero and Van de Ven. If healthy, one of the best centre-back pairing out there. Jid Spence and Udogie, all of you guys also put him in team of the season 2 years ago, Udogie. And you go Vicario, which is one of the highest saving percentage. And Pedro Porro, all the Spurs fans were telling me he's the best right back in the league just 2 years ago. So, and then you tell me top 6 and you be humble. Humble yourself.
Mo, don't try and draw me into your little games where you're going to trip me up at the end, say all this cobblers. Listen to me now. We finished 17th last season. We played a completely different.
Doesn't matter. Man United finished 15th and they have more chats than you. Come on.
Don't worry, Mo. I'm coming.
I think we finish above Man United. Don't get me wrong. But what if we get and Sabino? I think we can go big. But we're not going to beat Chelsea in the league. We're not going to go above Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool.
Let me interject there. I think I don't know about it being higher than Man United part. I think if Spurs have some level of consistency and you sign the players that you want in terms of Eze and Savinho, yes, I am saying seventh. I am saying seventh.
Seventh
Right?
with signing them. So
Seventh,
we're without.
even
So
with sign. The reason why I say that, you all have Champions League to play. Right? You all have Champions League. We don't know how this Spurs team is going to deal with these two competitions at the same time. Yes, you all had Europa League last year, and you all saw what happened. You all finished 17th. Right? You all finished 17th.
yeah, but we had
So-
Ange Postecoglou, slightly different.
Totally understandable.
Um,
Totally understandable. But you don't know
Weak,
how
man,
the players
weak,
going to adapt to Thomas Frank and his playing style, especially the players that you're going to try to bring in, or the players that you already have. So Man United have one game a week. One game a week. They should. Let's say Terry Lou, you all should finish
Can I ask,
higher
okay,
than
okay.
Tottenham.
Who has a better team? Okay, let's imagine Man United get Baleba and you get Eze and Savinho. Who has a better team?
Spurs.
Who has a better coach?
But Mo, earlier on, you already used your wild card because you said earlier on today United for top 5. So if you're so set on United for top 5 and Spurs for top 5, who are you knocking out? Because you've got
This is
Liverpool,
it.
you've got
Mo-
Chelsea, you've got Arsenal, you've got City. Who are you knocking out?
Yeah, Mo has been outed. You literally said earlier on the show, you called me out live on the air for getting Terry.
I'm asking Kate.
But you
But
literally,
we're asking you, Mo.
you literally said
asking
Man
me?
United are the 5th best team in
Oh,
England now after our
It's very
signing.
simple. If Man United get Baleba, Spurs are not finishing ahead of them. But I'm asking Kate. She's the one who said Spurs have better squad, Spurs have better coach. She literally just said that. It just went over your head.
I said that if we get Eze and Savinho, yeah, I do, and I believe
You have a
that.
better coach, even if they get Baleba, you have better coach and better squad.
Yes.
Damn. So, okay, what if they don't get Baleba then and you get only one? It's Eze.
I think we finished around about 6th or 7th, and Man United may finish above us.
I
May.
think Spurs is good for 7th next season. I think they are good for 7th.
Seventh is crazy.
Look, at the end of the day, you lot, everyone thought we was going to get smashed by PSG tonight, and we didn't. Yes, we
No,
lost.
I agree. I agree with you on that. Let's jump to some of these super chats here. This is why is Mo mentioning Arsenal when they lost 5-0? Not every day is Arsenal.
You, Hamoud. Most of the chat is coming. Oh, why do you call Spurs? This you call Spurs. This you call Spurs. That. Come on. You know why I mentioned Arsenal? Because Arsenal fans are here bantering Spurs. And come on, hey, have some shit.
Leo here says, typical Mo gaslighting. Did you see Twitter at halftime? My phone was going ballistic when they went 2-0 up from all my Spurs mates. We have a right to banter them. They bought it to themselves.
Okay, then. Okay, fair enough. They actually drew PSG. They didn't lose. They lost on penalties. You lost in 180 minutes fair and square.
Yeah, but I do think, again, in terms of banter with your mates, if you're getting text messages, if Kate was texting me 2-0, wow, we're this, we're that, we're the other. That's why the people I called out at the start of the show weren't the general Spurs fan. It's all the Spurs fans in my comment section celebrating the win before they'd won. It's then funny when it goes the other way. And that's why I don't tend to do that. I wait. We could be 5-0 up away at Anfield with 5 minutes to go. I'm still not saying shit. I'm waiting until full time. I know some people like to go early so they can get a few more likes online. Thing is, I don't need to do that to get likes. I get likes and views. I get likes and views anyway, so I don't need to get my arsehole out.
The
Do you know
people
what I
that
mean?
were doing that and giving it large that Spurs were going to win are obviously young, because anyone that's my age knows that you can never ever assume anything where Spurs are concerned.
No, that's true. That's true. I was sitting there, right? I'm not gonna lie. Going, please be Spursy. I didn't want you guys to win. I'm gonna like if you would have done, I've praised you tonight, even though you've lost. I would have praised you still. But I was just sitting there. I went to the bathroom and I was talking to my dog because there was no one else to talk to. And I was looking. I was like, Rocky. I said, we might have helped Spurs win 2 fucking trophies. I'm gutted. And yeah, you did work well in that way. PSG giving you an 85-minute grace period just to snatch your happiness at the end. What a day. Lou, I wanted to ask you, what did you make of Tottenham tonight? In terms of, if we get back to the game for a minute, the performance in itself, what did you make of Spurs? How well do you think they did up against everybody, sort of the default best team in the world?
Actually, I was about half-time, I think I put in one of our group chats, and I was like, Spurs are playing disgustingly well, because I was expecting them to just be terrible, and I was devastated that they were actually playing well. And I can't remember which goal it was, but there was 3 players, like they had to try 3 times before they got it in the back of the net, but that just meant that they had 3 players in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. They forced a save and then they got it in anyway. So actually, I think overall, Spurs, for the most part, played quite well. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's because PSG didn't turn up until late in the match, blah, 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 blah. But you also have to give credit to the team that was winning. Like, they weren't winning by accident. They didn't score the goals by accident. They were good goals. And the pressure, at one point, it looked like they were going to keep scoring. And then, obviously, the Spurs part kicked in. But I would be curious from Kate, like, even though, obviously, in the end, you lost on the penalties, did that game give you more confidence than you had going into it? Because really, that's the measure of how you performed.
Yeah, massively. I think if any Spurs fan watches that and doesn't take confidence from it, then they weren't watching properly, because when you compare that performance to last year, even the final against Manchester United, which was a dreadful game, Tottenham looked like a completely different team. We looked well drilled, we looked well organised. Without a number 10, we were still creating. Egal's looking so smug, and again, no European heritage. Don't even talk to me. I think that the impact that Thomas Frank's had in 6 weeks is unbelievable. So I'm really confident for the season. Like I say, if we finish 7th, that's 10 places higher than we did.
I actually think that's the big point of it, though. Like, Thomas Frank has only had such a very, very short amount of time, and there is a big, big difference. So I can imagine what it's going to be like when he's had a bit longer. Like, we often enough, because obviously we got Amram in the middle of the season, we often said, wait till he has a pre-season, wait till he's had some time. You're going to see a completely different team. And we are actually starting to see that. Even though it's only pre-season, you know, we are seeing that. So yous are kind of going to have the same thing then with Thomas Frank. So it'll be interesting to see how much further he can take that, because obviously we're on the edge of the season starting, and it does change how much time he's going to have on the training pitch.
Yeah, and everyone knows Brentford were never easy to beat. You know, they've always been quite solid, and you can see he's been working from the back going forwards, because our defence and our keeper already look more solid than they did last year. So I'm actually quite excited for the season. I've got to be honest.
You're excited to finish 7th, right? You're so excited. She's coming here and saying, I'm finishing 7th. That's
well, we established the 5th is taken, Mo.
She's so excited. I finished 7th.
What are you here to say, Gal?
Do you guys know that's the first time PSG played since they played Chelsea in the Club World Cup? Like, we are talking about a team that has not played where Tottenham had preseason. Tottenham have had a couple games under their breath. Tottenham have been a little bit more fit, a little bit more ready, and that's why I think Tottenham came out the gate looking like the much better team. And eventually, when PSG clicked into gear late in the game and they showed their quality, they were able to get back in it and get the draw just before the game was over to get forced penalties. Now, don't get me wrong. When you guys were 2-0 up, I was shitting myself. I thought you guys were going to go and win it. But as always, somehow you guys messed it up late in the game. And in the penalty shootout, I thought you guys once again were going to win it, because you went ahead in the penalty shootout and they didn't have Donnarumma, who's historically known as a good penalty shooter, but you messed it up. I'm going to say this. I do think Tottenham showed signs and glimpses of it, them being really good. But at the same time, don't forget that the team you face today has not played a competitive game since July 13th. And you guys have had
typically Egal coming here to play down the opposition of the team he doesn't like.
I'm just keeping it real.
He does this all the time. When Arsenal plays someone, they are the team from Mars. You know what I mean? Like, they come in.
You guys have to acknowledge
played aliens. We literally played aliens. You know what I mean?
You have to acknowledge that Tottenham had at least 4 warm-up games to get ready for this game. Their whole focus,
and PSG had a continuation. They played in the Club World Cup.
PSG rocked up like a washed-up player who didn't care, going to Sunday League and just whooping everybody's ass. That's what they thought they were going to do. And you know what? They got a little bit humbled in the first half. In second half, the second half, when they needed to late in the game, they showed up. And I'm just going to say, Tottenham fans, you can hold on to whatever you want from this game, but at the end of the day, you have to win it. If you're in a final, you're 2-0 up, You have to win it. You
And
can't.
to be fair, Egal, we had to
take
win
it
a trophy
away
to
from
get to the final, which something you wouldn't know about.
You know something? We have been in a Super Cup final in 1994. Do your research.
Wow, that long ago. Wow, okay.
Question.
You lost, didn't it?
Egal,
You lost. You lose
we
that,
lost
right?
18-1.
You lost that. Yeah, I thought so.
We
I
travelled halfway around the world. We've been Hong Kong, we've been Singapore, we've been Korea. You've got to remember that as well. Plus,
Yeah,
we've
hang on,
lost-
hang on. PSG had to go to France. They've been around the world.
plus we've
They
lost
went
our
abroad.
playmaker just
Hey,
before the
I just think it's a factor that people don't talk about when they talk about why the game went the way it went.
I just don't
But
understand why an Arsenal fan feels the need to
Why
come
did
on.
that? Why did
Hey,
Chelsea
I'm a football
slap
fan.
them
I'm here to
3
talk about a
again?
football game. That's what it is.
Egal. Why the other Londoners smashed them 3 then? Why?
Sorry?
Why the other Londoners smashed them by 3?
Because Chelsea have a much better midfield.
I don't know if Spurs
Then
could win
PSG?
either way, though.
Not just
Because
a better
Chelsea have
midfield.
a
I
much better
think
midfield than
Chelsea has
Spurs.
better quality
One,
players than Tottenham. That is
Yeah.
why. We have
And that is why
players.
you won 3 and Spurs only drew.
That is why.
One lost
and the
penalties,
difference in
right?
the score, I would say, is this. I actually think Spurs could have won 3-0 tonight.
Yep.
The manager didn't make defensive substitutions.
Yep.
He brought on 2 attackers for attackers. The Spurs players didn't do what Chelsea did. They sat back all behind the ball and they didn't take the risk of trying to lay a glove. There was so much space to run into. If they would have just been a little braver, and I'm sure Thomas Frank, in a sensible way, is going to sit down with these Spurs players tonight and say, look, guys, and they'll probably go through the video footage, angles that we can't see on television, and say, look, we won the ball back here 5, 6, 7 times in the last 20 minutes, but we had no outlet because you all sat so deep. And those are the small things that Spurs have got to work on, because had they have had those outlets, had they have attacked, they would have. I can't imagine them not getting at least one chance on the counter to kill that game off completely, exactly like Chelsea did in the final.
Now, not to stick up for Spurs too much, because they're not in my good books at the minute after last season, but I think Spurs couldn't win. Because if Spurs won, we wouldn't be talking about how good Spurs were. We'd be talking about the fact of the goalkeeper. We wouldn't be talking about Spurs being good. We'd be saying, oh, that was because of the goalkeeper. So I think even if they won, they didn't win. You know what I mean? Nobody was going to give them credit. Least of all
Are
me.
you giving them credit? Do you think they were good then?
Yeah, I thought they were good. I said that.
You think they were good?
I thought they were good for the most part until the end.
Let's be honest. Everyone will give you credit.
Until the substitutions.
I'm not
until
Spurs.
the substitutions were.
You're giving me credit, Gal. I'm not Spurs.
I'm just going to say, I think people would have given Spurs credit, because if they would have won their second trophy, it would have been a mentality switch. You've now won back-to-back trophies. You're showing a mentality. You can go and get these games done. Where the way that they lost at the end is, well, they're back to default Spurs. That's what I kind of.
That's just not true.
Not only
that's just
that,
a really easy argument.
I think Spurs, what they did tonight, they basically put the momentum back in PSG's way. If Spurs were to win that game tonight, PSG would have been flattened. Everybody would have gone into PSG games feeling like we could get at this team and beat this team. But just the fact that Spurs capitulated at the end.
I agree, Jess. I agree. I think what Chelsea and what Tottenham have done is demonstrate a blueprint to taking points off of and/or beating PSG. And it's press them really high when you have the energy, catch them on the counter, and be very hard to break down, very hard to beat. 5 at the back, that solid 3 in front. And actually, again, we haven't really mentioned him tonight. Mohamed Kudus, brilliant. Richarlison, but Richarlison played really well for Richarlison. That was a really, really good performance from him as well. So go on, mate.
He was a nuisance. Yeah, he was a nuisance throughout. Like, he wasn't like taking amazing chances and stuff, but he was a nuisance. And together with Kudus, they really were, and Paulinho and like the midfield were also pushing up along with them. And I think we really sort of kept them pressed for most of the game until obviously those substitutions were made. And I think that's where, as you say, the impetus changed. And, they came more we allowed them to come more into the game, and we went more defensive. I think the guys that came on, obviously Tell is not the same as Kudus, and Solanke, as much as I love him to bits, he's just come back from injury, and, he's not obviously at his best. He's still got to, catch up, get his fitness back. So, Yeah,
Yeah.
it was frustrating though.
I hear that. This here from Andre says Arsenal fans being shameless as usual and bantering Spurs for losing, but this Spurs team is looking really good, and I'd be gutted if Spurs do better than Man United this season. This here from Madul says, to be fair, no one expected 5-0 because it's not Inter playing.
We sold the game. Today proves it.
Ronin here says, not everyone can demolish the kings of Europe. This is Chelsea fan Ronin. This here from Pratush, who says, I'm mostly agree with your opinions, Mo, but how do you not get the context of this banter? Also, it is a poor response to banter with almost defeated PSG.
You know, if you tell somebody that you're gonna get smashed, like the 0% chance or Arsenal, you're gonna get smashed, and then they put in a good fight, you don't have face to banter from. You don't have face to banter.
Abraham says Teta saved by PSG from a cooking. Oh yeah, I mean Arsenal and Arteta would have got it. Would have been absolutely carnage on socials if that game was a victory. Not Mo trying to gaslight us like he didn't see what some of these Spursy fans were chatting about on Twitter earlier on, is what Gunnar P.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Questions are going to be asked of Luis Enrique if Chevalier keeps conceding goals like that. I have to agree, and I don't know how many of you agree with that, but I'd love to throw that out to someone on the panel, because for me, I don't know nothing about this kid. I've read a few articles, I've read a few scouting reports, and he sounds really good, the future of French goalkeeping. But I watched that save, and I just almost feel like it's not about him coming in for Donnarumma. The way Luis Enrique and PSG are trying to paint this picture of we need a different type of goalkeeper, when all they're really trying to do is finish their young French model, reduce the wages and stuff like that. The way they've ousted him, that's just going to put pressure on this young keeper, because they've not just said, you know, they're both part of our plans. Which, you know, if a big comes in, they've literally ostracized him from the squad to get rid of him. Surely that's going to put more pressure on this young kid to deliver. Now, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest goalkeeper in their club's history has just been kicked out at 26 years of age. That's not really a great foundation for the youngster, or maybe I'm misreading this.
But 1 second, maybe Terry, like even Donnarumma, if you've seen his Italian games or PSG games, he doesn't look very strong on set pieces. Like he looks, for someone who's very tall, he looks quite fragile, and they concede, and they always look like they could concede from set pieces, at least from what I've seen from Donnarumma.
That's fair. This here says, just getting a bit of background noise from yourself there, Ram. Let me reduce your mic noise. I'm not too sure. Someone will get in it. It might be you, Joe, actually.
Sorry, I've got my fan on. Let me just get turned off.
There we go. I wonder what that was. I was like, Jesus, what's that? This here says, who whole of the football stratosphere was bantering Arsenal at 2-0 up, but Arsenal fans don't bend over and take it, and we're the villains. What a surprise. Orchie, Kate, do you expect Arsenal fans to give you a bit back, right? Or yeah,
of course. And it's funny because they never win anything, so give it all you like. They're just the kings of second place.
This is the problem I've got with Man United at the minute. We have allowed Spurs to say that sentence, that they can say X doesn't win anything because they've just won a trophy. It's horrible. I hate it. Sasko here says, in my opinion, Spurs looks good because it's PSG's first game back. You could tell they lack sharpness and fitness. This Spurs team is still not good enough. Elijah, do you agree with this statement? Egal said something similar, that it's PSG's lack of fitness why Spurs look good tonight.
Yeah, maybe, because listen, I've got to say this as a Chelsea fan. I love, that Tottenham always bottle the game, but to be honest with you, I feel like defensively they've been solid. Like in the first half, Terry, I was looking at the stats. PSG had no shots on target, and Foucault only had to make one save that he did, and Tottenham, deserved to go 1-0 up at half time because defensively they were good. With Charlison, he was very good today. Even Mohamed Kundus as well. Pape Sarr with the blocks, tackles, and from set piece as well, they looked really good. And PSG were all over the place in the first half. But in the second half, Terry, this where you've got to give Luis Enrique credit, because when he took off Caristinia and brought on Fabian Ruiz, PSG looked like the much better team. You know, that allowed Dore to be playing on the right wing and Fabian Ruiz to be playing in the midfield. And PSG looked like the way better team. So I think for me that if that's what you got to give the manager credit now, PSG, you know, I don't know what happened to them, especially in this game, because they only didn't have a preseason game. You know, they played against Chelsea about a month ago, so I don't know what happened to them, but you know, but they've won. But Tottenham, I have to say this as well. Like, I feel like if they can have fixed this mentality of, you know, just throwing the game away, then I feel like Tottenham this season could be a really good team, because Thomas Frank, you know, might be very heartbroken, but at least he did something to not make PSG like destroy them the way Bayern Munich did last week. So I think for me that Tottenham are going to be a problem, but they need to fix this mentality, because if they don't sort this out, if they keep like going 2-0 up and then just bottle it, you know, to lose the game, and I just feel like Tottenham will just be the same old Spurs. So if Thomas Frank can fix that, then I feel like that would be great. Now, I don't think he's going to be changing the system, because he likes to go to a 3-5-2 formation. Like, it's really good, you know, but I think for me, he needs to, like, you know, maybe try and get the third goal and then try and play a low block, because you know that's the situation. But give credit to Luis Enrique with the substitutions, you know, and to make PSG look good. But I feel like Tottenham should have won this game, because you know they hit the post, you know, they had so many bad chances, so they could have won this game and it would be a totally different conversation. But I think Tottenham are a good team, but they really got to fix the mentality, because it's the same mode and it will never change.
Can I add a point to the mentality thing? Like, I'm a Spurs fan. I'm actually really concerned about the mentality part. I feel like games like this can be actually very devastating, like in terms of mentality. Like, you see players like Spence, Kudus, Sar, Bentancur, they gave it their best. They ran hard. They tackled everything. They pressed high, even though like we had less position. So they were running throughout like all the time. And as soon as we got subs, like no matter how hard they try, some players let us down, and the drop off in quality is massive. So like no matter what these guys do, we still lose. And I feel like I can see this drop off in Bentancur, especially in Sar as well. In covering towards the end of the season, they don't give it them all. Like as compared to today, you can see the effort that they put in.
Archie, do you agree with that? Are you worried about the mentality going forward of this team when you look at that last 20 minutes of tonight's game?
Yeah, I think I don't know about mentality. I think obviously Thomas Frank is a totally different manager, and I think I agree with what Kate said earlier. For the majority of that game, we looked really well drilled, and I think you have to take into consideration that Thomas Frank's only been in the job. He's only had about 6 weeks with these players. So imagine, you know, when he's had 3 months, 6 months, maybe a whole season, when he's had a chance to really bed in his style, his system, and what he's expecting from the players. I think today we more got undone by the lack of depth. Obviously, you've got to also take into consideration no Udogie, no Madison, obviously, and no Kulusevski as well. So, and obviously we've only brought in 2 new players, so we definitely need some more players to really bring up the quality of the team. We need some experienced players. I mean, I think Paulinho was fantastic signing. We need more of that. So Eze, Savinho. So if we can get those kind of players, I think you will see a less drop off. So when we make substitutions, you know, it's going to be more, you know, like for like quality. Again, coming back to, for example, Solanke, you know, he's just come back from injury. He's been out injured for quite a bit. He hasn't played in any of I think he's only played in one preseason, the first preseason game. So I think it's more lack of depth that kind of got us undone tonight, because I think majority of that game until like the 70th, 80th minute, we were very much on top. We were very much in control of that game. But yeah, the last sort of 20 minutes or so, we went too defensive. We sat back too much and allowed, PSG to come back. Obviously, their substitutions helped out as well. But yeah, I think it was more lack of depth of our squad than, I think mentality. But yeah, and also Thomas Frank being so new in the
I will disagree slightly. I think is a mentality problem, right? The reason why I will say that, y'all again, Egal came in and said it. Y'all had a preseason. Y'all had 4 games. This PSG didn't have any, right? You all should have been, you all were, matter of fact, a lot more match sharp and ready. I understand they probably have the depth, but you all should have been, you all were ready. You all should have controlled the game better, especially in the 85th minute, where you all were up 2-0. You all should have controlled the game. When the mentality comes in, you're all supposed to know, the team, the players supposed to know on the pitch right then and there, all right, let's play the game at our tempo. Let me slow it down. Let me take time and try to see the game through. And I think that is where the mentality comes into play.
Yeah.
I want to counter that quickly, Terry, if that's okay.
Yeah, go on,
Now,
mate,
I understand where you're coming from, but you also have to take into consideration that, yes, we had a pre-season so far, but that pre-season, most of that is basically Thomas Frank getting to know these players and what they're capable of. It's not a proper pre-season. Luis Enrique was already a manager. So, like, if we still had Ange, for example, Ange already knows majority of those players. So it's more about preparation for the season. Whereas this pre-season with a new manager, that pre-season is more taken up with getting to know the players, getting to know what their limits are, and him deciding actually what players he wants to continue the season and what players he wants to maybe get out of the club and bring in replacements. So it's not a proper pre-season. So I think, bearing in mind that he's only been in the job for about 5-6 weeks, I think I'm proud of the performance on majority of the game today, because everybody had us being smashed like 5-0 or whatever, and I think we put on a really good performance for the majority of the game, and we really fell off towards the end in the last 15-20 minutes when we made those substitutions, and the guys that came on weren't as good enough as the players that came off. That's my
Jason here says PSG ain't even had a preseason, Mo. Still Spursy. I thought before the game Spurs would win because PSG haven't even had a practice game and had been on the Vino for weeks. Looking forward to Sunday. Come on, you Gunners.
You're lying, Jason. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying. You never expect the Spurs to win this game. You're lying through your teeth.
Just
And I
like
know
they
it, and
didn't
you know it,
expect us
bro.
to beat them in pre-season either.
No, you're not lying.
A couple of weeks ago.
This here from Adrien says, can always count on Mo on making a PSG and Spurs final or anything that happens about Arsenal again and putting on his banter police hat.
Yes, I'm a banter police. Yes, Adrien. Yes.
Spike here says, Terry, PSG had no preseason. They all came back 6 days ago. This was their first game and still won. Lol. Look, PSG are the best team in the world. Equally, I watched Chelsea play 2 games in 4 days. They also that was their first game back, and they've barely been back in training, and Chelsea looks scintillating. Chelsea looks amazing. So I'm not going to sit here and be a complete hypocrite and say, well, yeah, PSG... the only reason they look sloppy is because they've been off. They've not played for 4 weeks. At the same time, Chelsea look really sharp. The reason that one of the big reasons that PSG looked sloppy was because Spurs were brilliant tonight. Spurs pressed them. Spurs hurried them. Spurs gave them a lack of space. They didn't allow the fullbacks to run. Jez Spence locked up Hakimi for ages. I do think that I wouldn't say it was a mistake from Luis Enrique. Dembele, for me, starting centrally doesn't really work for them. I think he's better from the right, drifting into those central areas, I think, which is key. At the same time, you're not going to come back and be unsharp and unfit and get fitter throughout the course of an actual game. You're going to get more tired. They got sharper as the game went on because Spurs actually let the intensity go in the match. So I don't think we can take it all away from Tottenham and just say PSG haven't been playing. Because Chelsea look great.
Guys, 17th versus triple winners.
Yeah, come on now. Let's be fair about
What
this.
are you talking about?
What's the difference between Spurs and a book? A book has a title. Luke Skywalker said, look, I love you, bro, but they literally have a title right now. They're Europa League champions. Oh, yeah, come on. There's banter police, and then there's, bruv, like, try a different joke. Come on. Arsenal's Mo's Mo's Arsenal hate is showing, is what Sunray says here. Sadly, I think Spurs look better than us, is what Model says, who's a United fan. What phase is Egal in? I will say this about Egal. I did see a fairly well-known YouTube channel have a panel on the other day. I got sent a clip of this where they weren't just ripping into Egal and saying nasty things about him. They were talking about all people that don't have English accents, giving opinions on football and how it's not worth as much and not as valuable as much. And I just want to put out this message. That's what other platforms want to push. Fair play to them. That's their choice. They've got the freedom to do that. It's not. I'm not saying you've done this, by the way, Pratarish. I'm just saying in general, everyone's voice is welcome on the Football Terrace. Unless you're nasty, unless you're horrible, then you can fuck off. But it doesn't matter if you've got an English accent, an Irish accent. Doesn't matter if you've got an Australian accent, an American accent, Canadian. I don't even know what other. If you've got an accent like Mo's that changes when he gets angry, you're allowed on the terrace. We've got people from the Caribbean on our shows. We've got people like Kate with their like accents. They're all common like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's what you do here. It's just it's probably why we're better than those channels, to be fair. But there we go. That's just me. Spurs are finishing above Man United. Fuck you, Jack. You're banned. You're banned. Fucking hell. Everyone's welcome but Jack. Jack can fuck off. No, I'm joking, Jack. As a United fan, I think Amorim is the worst manager in the league. And until I'm proven otherwise, which I will give him time to do, we are lucky if we get 10th right now. Listen, at least you've given an opinion where you said you can change your mind. I've got to respect that, Jack. On a level, I've got to respect that, to be fair with you. Spurs should have won. Their lack of depth was exposed. Yeah, but it was again. I don't even think it was lack of depth. They just sat back too deep. Solanke and Tell were good enough to counterattack with all that space.
Tell is, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. To be fair, you could be right. It's funny Arsenal fans talking about being Spursy when we won a Europa League and made Champions League final, but they beat Real Madrid. Is what TJ says here. Two things can be true. Yes, PSG looked lackluster, but Spurs were definitely very hard to break down and also strategically pressing high. Joe, did you notice that tonight when watching Spurs? Did you see the sort of the strategic high press in the early parts of the game?
Yeah, I did. It was very interesting to watch because it felt structured, unlike Ange. He used to press very high and leave a lot of space in behind. But what I really liked about Spurs is they stayed nice and organized. And after watching Ten Hag for 2 years, how the hell did he not get anything organized? And we kept that guy around, you know. And Thomas Frank in 6 weeks has managed to get Spurs looking organized, you know, especially in 3-5-2. I think it was it a 3-5? Yeah. They looked so much better. Like with only 2 signings and that Danzo, I mean, never heard of him, but he looks like he's going to be a proper good centre back. And Spurs' counterattacks, if they get, you know, a Savinho and an Eze on those counters as well, they looked really good. And I'm thinking we need to get Aaron Wan-Bissaka back for when we play Spurs, because I just don't know how we're going to deal with their wing threat. Because my days, Kudus looks just phenomenal. I mean, I went down to Reading and I know obviously it's just a League One side, but he looked phenomenal. I mean, at West Ham, he had definitely issues, but he sort of looks like that season 1 sort of Kudus again, where everyone's interested. I think Spurs have got a quality player if they can keep his head. But yeah, no, he looks really, really good. And I really like the high pressing. And I'm a bit worried, you know. I didn't think that Spurs would be adjusting that quick, but I mean, Thomas Frank is a good manager and he knows how to get the best out of players. And you know,
you worried because you think Spurs will. You're a Man United fan, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I'm a Man United fan.
Okay, so you're worried because you think Spurs will battle you for the Champions League spot or for 10th? Because the next question will depend on your answer.
I can make a prediction now because it's such a short span.
So you just said you're worried, right? You just said I'm worried that Spurs are good. So.
Sorry, go on, Joe. Joe can speak for himself. I nearly defended him.
Yeah, of course.
Lucky my son there. So
I just want to, because he said that I'm worried.
Go on, Joe. Go explain what you said. Explain what you said, Joe.
Well, I'm just worried about how quickly they have changed completely from this team that would rush and do all these sort of thing. I just think with more time, they could just progressively get better. And the signings they're making with Eze and Savinho, that's what I'm worried about. They're the future. Now, yeah, they lost. But this is still a very good PSG side. I think PSG's strength off the bench did win them that game slightly, and obviously mentality. But I'm sure, if Man United can change their mentality, hopefully, I'm sure Spurs can as well. So, you just got to wait and see.
Certainly, Joe here, different Joe, says, where is Do-Rag Diarrhea at? He's always here to give a cooking, but not to take it. Only Kate is the real one I've got big respect for. In fact, Orchie comes a lot, to be fair. Orchie's a Spurs fan. He turns up. And in the comments, we have people like Cal that super chatted. Jerome normally does, but Jerome's in Australia, so I don't know what time it is there now. Actually, it's probably I don't know, it's the morning there. It's hard to know with Australia. It's so big. Their own country's got different fucking time zones. So I don't know what's going on over there. Football was saved tonight. Here's what Prince says here. Jack's back again. He says, this is a Man United team that still has a DM with no legs, a goalkeeper who is below average, a midfield role playing as a keeper, and a lukewarm Shaw who has a flat next to the hospital. Listen, Jack, I agree with you on a lot of those things, but that's why that's where I'm realistic. It's always going to take us a long time to fix our squad. Spurs, on the other hand, have a powerful and athletic squad that can play like this. They were just misused. They were not the 17th worst team as in players in the league last year. They're a side that came 5th the season before, and had Son not purposely missed the one-on-one, they would have made the Champions League. So you don't drop from that to 17th because the players are bad. That was all to do with the manager's systems. And even last year, the one competition where Big Ange played like they did tonight, they fucking won it. They won it. If they'd have played like that in the Premier League, Big Ange would still have a job. Simple as that. How ironic a Korean player dumps on Spurs. Yeah, true. Stop falling for the Mo. That's a great name for you, Mo. The Mo manipulation.
Get thrown in.
The Mo manipulation. Spurs look better with Frank. Lost Son, no 10, still almost 1. If they get Eze, they will be serious. Mo, how the hell people you don't know lie? How do you know people you don't know lie? Is what he's saying.
Because there is nobody. I believe nobody picked Spurs to win before the game.
I tell you what, right? Mo
especially Arsenal fans. Definitely.
I tell you this, yeah, you might be right about that. But Mo does say some weird things. Mo the other day told me that a player isn't good who he didn't know. Yeah, I mean, Mo does say some strange things. I tell you.
Probably.
Cal here says Thomas Frank is playing Arteta ball, long throws and set pieces. Different opinions, but all of you are amazing. Well, yeah, we've got a lot of new panelists that have added to the Football Terrace this year. For reasons that we will divulge later on in the season. Some old faces as well, but we want to bring in some new stuff. And like our match reactions, I haven't even told the guys this. We want to make it more about the games and the overall parts of football clubs, plus more interaction with you, the audience, with your super chats, with your comments, as opposed to everybody just getting a 10-minute moggle of what they thought of the game. There's part of that, but it'll be more about interacting with you, the viewers, interacting with your thoughts, feelings, and opinions to change things up.
New faces doesn't mean I'm leaving. I'm still here. Just to let you know, I'm still here.
Yeah, you're part of the redirect gang, isn't it? So yeah, you're still here. Look, I want to thank each and every single person who's tuned into the show tonight. I want to thank my panelists, my beautiful, lovely panelists there with their wonderful diversity of accents. It's accepted on the Football Terrace. We like it here. We're back tomorrow. Actually, it's not weird day. I'm live at 10 a.m. on the United Stand. Then I'm live on the Terrace. Then it's a top 6 show. So I'm very busy tomorrow. So I can't wait to see you all then. Hopefully we have some bombers and some news new stuff to react to. This is going to redirect you to Don Hussam's channel. So go and support my brother over there if you would be so kind. But until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And congratulations to Paris Saint-Germain. Commiserations to Tottenham. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.